Hey everybody, welcome. We've got our wonderful crew together here. We're going to continue these shenanigans. They are traveling with their wonderful, I use the term loosely, companions, the Solamnic Knight Liam Shaley, Sir Liam Shaley, and Krynn, who is a white-robed mage, who is more of a city dweller than anything, but he's a very nice man, as we all know. Now, where we last left off, this group had decided to leave First Wall. Getting down to where you guys are at the map, which you can see is right south of the Stormshire Forest and north of the southern Dargard Mountains, you guys have managed to come to this point on the map roughly about midday on the 30th of March. So it's been about a day or so since you guys left First Wall. The traveling has been a little rough. Now, you got out of the foothills, you skirt the edge of the marsh there in the bogs, and then you manage to get into the plains of Garland. Now, this is a nice welcome change. It's still early spring, so it's still a bit cold at night, and it's getting a little more warm during the day, but being away from that boggy ground or the rocks of the foothills is making the wagon trip a lot easier. And on the plains where you're at, going through the throttle gap there, there are a bunch of wagon marks for different trails and tracks that lead through this area. Because there's a capital city just north of you guys towards the river. That's Garlus, the capital of Garland. Then down south you have Heartland and Solamnia itself that begins with the Empire. So there's a lot of trade that kind of comes through this area. So there are wagon trails. You do occasionally see a group of people kind of like either going in the opposite direction or passing you from north to south as they're leaving, like from Nightlund through Gaardlund to get down further south onto the continent. So there's a lot of travel here during the day. And with the spring coming and the roads starting to open up a bit more, you're seeing a lot more bustling activity in this area. Not a lot of people, to be fair, are going back towards Estwild and through the throttle gap. Nobody's really going much towards the bogs or the mountains because nobody really wants to go towards the bogs or the mountains because, one, you have a freaking dragon that's in the bogs, and then you have the Cackless Mountains, which have the Knights of Naraka and other bad things. So traveling that direction, usually not well advised. However, going farther west is always a welcome sight, and as you guys pull out of the marshlands and out of the foothills, the plains open up before you, and you're just left with a bumpy ride on relatively used wagon trails. You have roughly 200 miles to go to Palanthas, and the speed your wagon is going at is going to be either between, I'd say, 10 days or maybe 20 days. It depends on how bad the roads get. So you're averaging around between 10 and 20 miles a day in the wagon. So your speed's a little variable depending on weather and things of that nature. Is there anything anyone wants to do to prep now or to get prepared while you're working, on this journey? I know that Jorg wanted to start tinkering with some things and building some stuff.
Yeah, basically, I wanted to try to see if I can start putting some, preparing that leather, that hide, at least for a bag that I'm going to eventually create. But for right now, that gem that we got, I'm going to need to use that for a homunculus servant, which I'm going to use to help give me a hand basically around things. So that's my infusion that I'm expending there.
Okay. What is your servant going to look like?
It's basically a mechanical bird, but the wings kind of articulate so that it can actually grasp things.
Okay. So
is it like named Sanga?
Is it going to be like a clockwork owl or like a raven? What kind of bird are you going to model it after as you're kind of taking that gem and using it as the essence, the crux of this bird?
I was thinking more along the lines of raven.
Okay.
Ravens are very intelligent creatures.
Do you want to have the metal as it starts to form and you start shaping things to be blackened around it, or is it going to be like a silver, or how do you envision that?
Good question. Let's go with blackened metal. I like that. That's easy enough.
Okay.
Because yeah, that's in theme.
So the infusion process itself, by book is pretty much you do the thing. You're like, I want this to happen in the gem, and then everything forms around it. However, being that you're a tinker gnome from Mount Nevermind, it's going to take you about a day as you're traveling because you're actually going to be putting some of this thing together. And your magic is not so much boom, magic. It's more like, hey, I did this thing and it works. Who would have thought? So as you're kind of putting the last bits of metal together and you're traveling through the road, it's a little rough here and there because as you're doing some of the finer manipulations of your tools, you're hitting like potholes on the road or like little ruts and the wagon's bouncing a bit. But as it progresses throughout the day, as the day starts to kind of slowly drag on, as you guys are being pulled across the plains by the horses, it starts to move. Like you can see a bit of the articulation start to work on the wings as you're putting the finishing touches on it. And by the time the sun has started to set and you guys are starting to roll into a slow for camp time, you basically have a bird that is now starting to work. Like you finish the last touches, it actually gets up on its feet and starts moving around and looking around, and it seems fully operational. Now for this, the whole time you're doing this, you've got Rin in the back of the wagon. He's sitting on one of the coffins, a little irreverently, funny enough, and he's just watching this with almost a rapt fascination. He doesn't say anything. He just observes. Like he's looking at everything you're doing, but you do occasionally see him scribble a note in like one of his small little like spell books.
Hey, what are you doing there?
Observing. I think that's really fascinating. I haven't quite seen anything like that before. You know it's magical, yes?
What you call magic is somewhat different than what I'm doing. It's really a science.
I mean,
Science is simply magic that can be quantified.
Oh yes, you see, you take this sketch here. See this geometric symbol. It works like this to channel in energy from the energy plane, and this allows you to access the plane of law.
so this is kind of like a sorcerer thing then. It just funnels energy from other places into an effect, yeah?
I don't know so much about the sorcery.
Fair enough. I think you're definitely touching something with that. That's all I can say. But I do think the craftsmanship is beautiful. Very well done, Jorg. Very well done.
Jorg's has used the great machines to make everything, so we just try to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah, but see, it's amazing because it worked. Is really the point here. Like usually I would expect something like that to get up and walk around and explode when it tries to call. Yours, and you see your crows, like your raven's walking around the back, it's looking at things, like it's taking things in for the first time, cataloging it, and through your connection with it, it's just observing. It's just getting to know its surroundings. But Rin points out is like it's not exploding. It's not going to explode, is it?
Never.
Okay.
Nisrith will actually hold her hand out to the bird.
And I would go ahead and have it hop on there.
Yeah,
hop on.
it'll hop up. You'll see its head kind of do a lot of tilting as it's looking over this other mechanical being.
Nisrith is doing the same thing.
You get almost a confusion from it, Dave, because this is something it's obviously mechanical, but this is not like it is. And it could tell. There's something very different here, and that's what it's trying to figure out. Now, mind you, this creature is not going to be like developing its own, it will have its own personality, but it has its own intelligence. So it has an intelligence stat, which means it can reason things through, and it's not quite understanding what it's seeing when it's looking at Nisrith right now.
So not a machine and not a person either.
No, definitely not a machine like the Raven's a machine.
I'm sorry, I was just going to
No,
say
go
the one
ahead.
thing I'm going to be doing is basically playing, shuffling between like the drum, the lute, the flute, and my viol throughout our trip to kind of vary up the music and whatnot, to keep everybody in higher spirits, just kind of help the day pass a little quicker. And then at night, obviously, I'll be using my Song of Sleep or whatever. It's the one that basically heals everybody at night and makes everybody comfortable. That's all it
Okay.
does.
You should have used that when you guys slept in a freaking barn.
I would have had I been level 3.
Okay. Fair enough.
I should probably mention, since you mentioned at camp, I was planning on at camp, if I haven't used up my spell slots, I was going to cast alarm around the campsite.
Sure. Yeah, no, you'll definitely be able to. Essentially, right now the wagon's starting to slow down to, a point where you can tell that Liam's looking for a good spot to pull off to the side and set up camp for the evening. So you've got a little bit of time, but yeah, you've definitely got the spell slots available. Everybody's refreshed to full. Doing the infusion took the day. I'm not going to have it take any of your slots today because really, I think this is something that if you stretch out over time was not quite a ritual, but could be seen as one, unless you're doing it on the fly, in which case I can see expenditures of magical energies. The wagon will slow to a gradual stop, and you'll see that Liam will have pulled you guys aside by a small copse of trees in the middle of the plains. And as the horses come to a rest, you can hear them kind of shuffle and shift up front in the front seat of the wagon. Now, when Liam is driving the wagon, he's not wearing his armor, he's not wearing the white cloak. He's more casual like he was in First Wall. He's got the armor is stuffed in the wagon. He is wearing just a chainmail shirt and like some leather breeches. That's it. He's not anything that's showing his allegiances because he knows how that could be seen as a little bit dangerous this far away from Solomonic lands. So he plays it a bit cautiously. Not being deceptive, he's being cautious. It's a very distinct point that he will make. And you feel him hop off, the wagon shakes a bit. And you hear Liam, all right, I think we've got camp for the night, ladies and ladies, aye? We got the robot one. What are you? Do you even, you're just a thing, right?
I am a woman.
Okay. But anyways, camp. I'm going to get down and make a fire. You all get whatever you want and make yourselves comfortable. We got a long road ahead, or such as it is. Maybe not a road. And you'll see him kind of wander off towards the trees. He takes a small hand axe with him, and you hear him start to get some small branches and things, and he starts to build a campfire, probably about a good, 5 or 6 yards away from the wagon.
I'm gonna start gathering. I'm gonna help him out, get firewood, stuff like that. I'll get some hay or something that we can use for like bedding, so we're not sleeping on the hard ass ground. Kind of keep us up a little bit.
So a lot of the grass here is dead from the winter. It's relatively tall. It's just dead grass. It's all that yellow tinged color. It hasn't started quite to change and erupt into the verdant green that's going to cover this entire plain land in probably like a month or so. So you can definitely with a knife or like a machete, cut some of that and use that as like a padding, to put down if you guys don't have bedrolls. They could, buffer it a little bit, make it maybe a little more comfortable. It's definitely not going to be like an in bed, but it'll help.
No. Yeah, it's just to make our rest more comfortable. That's it.
Okay. So Dade and Liam are out kind of gathering stuff for camp. Is anybody else doing anything of particular?
Yeah, I'm going to go out and gather greens, vegetables, that type of thing.
Right.
So I will be getting the vegetarian and nutritious option for the meals.
All Liam's got is probably dried meat. So yeah.
I know they do. But they need fresher things.
And
they don't understand yet. They're still children.
do we still have some daylight?
Yeah.
I mean, is it still
You've got probably another hour or two of daylight.
okay? And I'll use a little bit of light to go out and see if I can catch any rabbits or anything like that are still might be up and not quite burrowing down for the night.
Fair enough. Go ahead and roll me a survival.
Guess I ain't finding nothing. That's a 6.
I mean, we have 30 some odd dice, bro. You can use one. I think it'll be okay.
I'll use
Okay.
one, but no more than that. All right, that's better. 15.
You do manage to find some small game without too much an issue. You're gone for maybe about, I'd say, a half an hour, 40 minutes tops. You go a little further out. You go north of where you guys are camped out. You guys are camped out just that southern area there of the forest, and you go a bit north, and you can taste a change in the air the further out you go. You're still miles and miles away, like a good 50 or 60 feet from the river, but you can kind of feel that air is a little different, a little more fresh. You're actually getting somewhere near a body of water at this point in time. But as you manage to secure a couple of small rabbits, and maybe like a small game hen from a little bit of brush, you're walking back and something feels like it's pulling you north. And as you turn and look, you can see the outlines of the city as the sun's setting, in the west there is casting this weird light, but you can see as the ground gets higher, as it's going more towards the Gaardlund Mountains to the north of you, that massive forest that's there, the Nightland Forest, way to the north. But you can just see that on the horizon. And there's something that seems really familiar about that forest to you. You don't know what it is. Something is definitely there. You know you've been there before or know of it. You just can't bring it to the front of your memory. You just can't recall it.
All right. I'll kind of stare. I'll kind of like stare out in that direction a bit. And yeah, after a bit of kind of staring out in that direction, and there's not much like between like it's just plains between me and like
It's just plains, a river that's, basically the land goes forward, dips a little bit where you have the riverbed and the river that kind of runs through that area. Then it starts to climb back up. And as you start getting towards the mountains, you get into the foothills and the land starts to kind of get higher elevation. And that's where you can see like those, just the smatterings at the beginnings of that forest that will stretch over the horizon. I mean, there's the city of Garland, Garlus, which is right there, which is a big city, but you just get like that briefest outline, like the tops of some of the higher buildings.
weird feeling, but she's not going to go walking off into the night to go
Right.
and
Guys, I'll be back in a couple days.
Uh-huh.
so she'll kind of reflect on the feeling for a bit. But Sybil's never one to dwell on such things for very long, so she'll kind of shake off the feeling and start heading back towards camp.
By the time Sybil's coming back from camp with some small game, Carol will be coming back as well around that time from like the direction of more towards Stormshire Forest, where you've managed to collect some mushrooms and some wild berries and some root vegetables, things of that nature, to kind of really complement or actually even create a meal of its own, for just out of what you managed to forage. By the time you both get back, you've got Liam, who set up the entire campfire perfectly fine. It's just, he hasn't lit fire to it yet. He's stacking the wood up there. He's got a ring of rocks he's managed to kind of scavenged from around the roadside to make sure that the fire doesn't go past that. He's kind of cut down some of the grass around where he wants to put the fire so that you don't have to worry about it kind of catching. And Dade has kind of put down some dried grass a little farther in some areas so that you guys can put your bedrolls down upon that to have a little bit more of a cushioned sleep for the night. For Nizdrith, this raven that Jorg made throughout the day is hanging out like on your shoulder and on your head occasionally.
That's fine.
Just kind of looking around. You'll see Ren is kind of studying this bird and occasionally making notes again. Like, he's like, fascinating. I wonder if it, and he'll just finish his thoughts as he's writing into his journal, essentially. Is there anything Voss is doing?
Yeah, speaking of journaling, that's actually something that I wanted to start doing, focusing less really on thoughts or events and more on who I've encountered, like in particular that person that I killed, and going and talking to his family. So like a kind of an accounting of that type of thing, people I've encountered and like families I've encountered and like lives that I've had an effect on. Once I get my bedroll all settled up by the fire and everything, that's kind of what I'll settle in and start working on.
Okay. The sun will finally set in the west, and it'll start to just dim on the horizon. And as the stars start to kind of come out above you, that's when Liam lights the fire, and it goes up like a match, essentially. He gets a flint and tinder out there, 1-2 strikes, the dead grass catches and just lights up. And you guys have a good sized campfire within moments of him lighting it. It all managed to catch good and well. He managed to get branches that were not damp, so a lot of the wood he has is already dry, so that means it's going to burn a lot faster. And as you guys sit down to eat, things are calm, things are chill. It's just casual conversation around the fire. You guys are camping out for the evening before you start out on the road again. And as you're sitting there, the moons shift as they start to rise. At this point in time, Lunatari is in its last quarter. It's waning now. So that moon is starting to shrink a bit in the night sky. As you can see that Solinari is actually getting larger. Like it's growing. It's starting to really get to its waxing point. Nobody here can see the black moon, so there's no issue with that. But that's where the moons
And
are
which
at
is
in the
which?
sky.
Solinari is the red moon, right?
Solinari is the white moon. It's for white magic. Lunatari is the red moon, which is for the neutral god of magic. And Nutari is the evil god of magic in the black moon that only its followers can see. Unless it's Night of the Eye, which it luckily is not.
That's when all of them line up, right? And you can see all of them.
Yep.
It's like a pupil. Really crazy. Like you get the white ring, then the red iris, and then the black pupil. It's freaky. And bad magical shit usually happens on Night of the Eye. Just saying. You guys have your dinner. Things are relaxing. It's the end of a tiring day, out on the field and in the wagon and on the horses, but it does pass. As the moons start to rise to their zenith in the sky, however, Voss starts to hear some noises from inside the wagon. Sounds like people are talking.
I will quietly put away my journal and kind of stealthily make my way over to the wagon with my hand on the hilt of my rapier.
Once Voss gets towards the back of the wagon, you notice that you've got most of your companions are either laying down to rest or are just relaxing. Nobody's by the wagon. You see that the Raven is kind of just hanging out by Jorg and just making sure that everything's fine there. I'm guessing that Jorg is going to cast alarm before he tucks in for the night.
Specifically.
Not a problem. You do basically a perimeter around the area, put up your alarm spell. It goes off without a hitch. There doesn't seem to be any interference. Seems to seem fine.
I will play my Song of Rest before we go to sleep, so if anybody's injured, let me know and I'll actually roll. But if not, you just sleep comfortably.
I think we're all good, right?
I don't sleep, so
Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
sleep.
that's true.
So once all this starts to settle in, Voss makes his way to the back of the wagon, hand towards the hilt of his blade. When you get back there, you see three knights. It's weird because they're wearing armor, but the armor's damaged. And as a matter of fact, you actually peeked in one of the coffins before, and you actually see the individual wearing the armor that you saw that was bloodstained and a bit worse for the wear when you guys first saw the wagon. He's sitting there talking. He's like, all right, where is Alhana? We're all here. Where is she? And he's addressing two other knights. There's one female with like dark raven black hair, and then another male with short cropped like dark hair. Now, when you get in the line to really see them, the light from Solinari shining down and through the back of the wagon is what's outlining their bodies. You can see them like they're semi-transparent in the light of the moon. They don't seem to care that you're there or don't even seem to notice.
I'll like rub my eyes and like, am I sleeping? Excuse me, lady and gentlemen.
You call out and you see the one who was talking, the one with the damaged armor, looks over at you, goes, you see us?
Yes.
He looks
What
to
are
the
you
other.
doing in our cart?
We're stuck here. And Ulin's outside. And as he says that, you'll hear like this like very faint rustling of robes as you'll see a white robe mage walk around the back of the wagon by you, look at you, then look inside, then look up at the moon and just smile. And he as well is semi-transparent, kind of translucent.
Shouldn't I recognize you? Shouldn't you be in the box?
You'll see the mage go in the our bodies are in the box, young man. We're awaiting our arrest,
Okay.
but we are missing one of our companions, and we don't know why.
Who are you missing?
Alhana, she was a mage like me.
Is her body here too?
Yes.
But her
Spirit is not.
spirit is not around. Why would that be?
You'll see the mage like go to taking a large breath, like it's even necessary, right? And the first knight you were talking to raises his hand like, Ulin, don't, please. Spare us. Spare us. And him. We're dead. We have forever. He has limited time. We don't need a 3-century-long diatribe on the spiritual planes. You'll see the mage just kind of sigh and just nod. The armored knight will step out of the wagon and step onto the grass next to you. You see he stands like a good almost 6 feet tall, dressed in this armor of his station. And when the moonlight hits it, you can see the damage on it. It looks like he was hit by some arrows, and you can see like a puncture wound on his side. Probably the one that killed him, but you can still see it a bit there in his ethereal armor. He looks at you And looks like he moves to like raise his hand towards you, then thinks better of it and just lets his hand relax to his side. I'm Winston Ulthon. I apologize. I would shake your hand, but I don't think that's really possible at this point. My companions and I were in the mountains seeking something out. We were unfortunately killed. One of the people that was with us was killed as well. Her spirit's not here. Now, what could have happened to make her not be here, I have no idea, but she's not, and that concerns us.
Okay. I'm Voss, Ravenblade. We've been hired to escort your bodies to Palanthas. So that's why you're here. Do you know of the woman slash thing that was traveling with you? She's quite tall. I'll kind of peek around the wagon. She's over there. She doesn't really sleep. I'm not sure if I want anybody to see me talking to spirits. But were you with her when you died?
He'll actually kind of like mimic like your peek and look around the. I don't know what that is. That's weird.
Oh, okay, because she was with she was in in a box like you guys were. So I don't know if you all were all together at one point or if you just happened to be traveling together.
Well, no, I don't recognize that.
It's a she.
Okay, I don't recognize her. Maybe it was somebody that Liam picked up on his travels. Maybe an artifact or something. I don't know. And as he says the name Liam, you hear the female kind of snort, like derisively, like. Pfft. And Winston looks back. What? All due respect, sir, I don't trust him. Never did. How does he get to live? And all of us ended up dead. And you'll see the male that are still in the wagon with her kind of put his hand on her ethereal shoulder, like, Gianna, he got lucky. We know that happens in battle. She's like, it's not luck. He is still alive. We are all dead. Not a scratch on him.
But if I may, where you believe that your spirit is going to go, better than being alive, right? So really, if you think about it, he got the short end of the stick.
You'll hear Winston kind of clear his throat as he walks to stand beside you and kind of look into the back of the wagon at his compatriot knights. Mr. Ravenblade here is correct. We fulfilled our duty. We have nothing to fear, nor should we have any regret in dying. We know the rewards we'll go to, the rewards that we earned with our blood and with our adherence to our code. Just because he lives doesn't mean we should resent him. And you'll hear Gianna just kind of blow out like a rough sigh and just... Sir, with all due respect again, it's not that I resent being dead. It's not that I resent doing my duty to fulfill my oaths. It's that he walked out unscathed when we were all killed. And you'll hear the other gentleman say, but he wasn't with us, Gianna, when we went to... And you'll see him stop and look at you. When we went to the rendezvous point, he wasn't there with us. That's why he lived. And she looks at him and says, yeah, because he said he was going to stay behind and watch our backs.
I wouldn't call his current existence carefree. He does seem to carry a lot with him. I'm not sure if what happened to you has anything to do with that, but he's certainly not unburdened. What I'm concerned with is your Alhana. You said what her name is?
The mage will shake, well, not his head. Ulan just kind of goes and he points at one of the coffins. Yes, elven woman in that particular coffin. Her spirit's not here. I haven't seen her since we, woke up, so to speak.
So this is all new to me. Is there anything that I might be able to do to help look into this, considering I still walk amongst the living and maybe you don't? Maybe I have access to things. I don't know how this works. I don't know if you're able to go wherever you want or see whatever you want.
We are bound to our bodies until we reach our destination. Once we are entombed and buried, we will reach our rewards. Now, I'm not sure how the elves work it, and maybe it's because she's an elf. Ulan just kind of shrugs, and you'll see Winston say, well, it might be. However, she would still behold to the same gods we were, which means her end should be the same as ours. And you'll hear the male knight inside the wagon go, well, maybe. We don't really know. Like, we didn't allow elves in the knighthood for a long time because of this difference in opinion on certain spiritual matters, sir. Winston just kind of gruffly shrugs. Regardless. Young Ravenblade, just do us the favor of assisting us in getting to our destination. In Palanthas, you may be able to find clerics at the temple that may be able to shed some light on situations.
All right. Well, we've got a ways to go before we get there. Quickest 10 days, maybe 20. I'm guessing that doesn't really mean a whole lot to you anymore.
To us, it's been a mere day or so since we became this new state. Time doesn't really work the same for us.
Well, since we're all here now, do you like to play games? I've got a dice set.
You see the Winston raise a brow. And you'll spend the evening, I'm assuming, trying to get to know these guys a little better. And it's weird to Voss. Now, Voss, you've always had this weird kind of connection with the departed. You've kind of felt presences. We've never really seen them until now. This is a first. But you do note that they actually can't roll. So you're having to roll by yourself. It looks really weird to anybody like Nizrith who happens to wander by and sees like Voss in the back just sitting on one of the coffins just rolling dice. Like, well, look at that. Shit. Looks like you win again. And it's like, what the fuck? So it's a little...
Human. I don't understand them.
A little
They're
off-putting, to say the least.
I get visions when I don't sleep. He's playing dice by himself.
I mean,
Yes,
I'll try
he
and
is.
gamble them for anything that's left on their bodies if they're still want to gamble with what they have left.
To be honest, the material doesn't really mean much to them. So you actually will win probably like a good handful of silver. That's, you actually get it from the mage who will tell you, yeah, it's in my boot. There's a secret pocket. That's where you can get it from.
Sweet.
So you literally have to go into the coffin and be like, all right, what, fucking feel in, get by the corpse. Luckily, they're still in gentle repose, so they're not rotting and stenching up the place. But you find like a small little like sewn in pouch to the inside of his boot with like 5 silver.
Nice. Hey, I'll take it. It's hard earned. I won that fair and square.
From a dead guy.
From a dead guy. Yeah.
For Carol, you have interesting dreams again for the evening. When you lay yourself down to rest, you basically feel yourself emerge into what feels like a damp chamber, like rocky damp chamber, like almost underground. And you get this smell of really like a sharp smell of blood that just fills your nostrils and kind of saturates your awareness. And you can feel like this resonance of violence in the air. You never get to make out exactly what's going on, but you do get a feeling of some old danger that's somehow come back into existence through bloodshed. And you're not quite sure what it is, but you know it's connected to your people. That's the thing.
Oh, okay. All right.
The dream doesn't do enough to wake you up, but it is one that you'll remember when you wake up, when you arise in the morning. For everybody else, the night goes on eventfully. For Nizdrith, it's just another night of watching the flesh things sleep while you don't have to. So you study spellbook. You can go through the books that are in the wagon from the dead mages if you want to while they're sleeping. That's up to you.
No, that's rude. I wasn't given permission.
Also true. Night passes uneventfully, aside from Voss playing with dead people, throwing dice, and you all wake up in the morning. The alarm doesn't get tripped. Your spell is still completely intact come the morning. But Voss will note that when the sun rises, those spirits are not around. You can't see them, you can't feel them, you can't hear them. From what you can gather with this first experience, it was the light of the moon that made them visible to you.
Specifically Solinari.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these were all those aligned with good. So you had literally a white robe mage and then 3 Knights of Solamnia. They're the ones who would be along that spectrum, and in the light of that moon being in its waxing phase, hit them, and they were visible to you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder if if Elhana had a little red in her.
I'm not thinking it's red. You would have already seen. You might have already felt her presence if it was red.
That's
I'm
true.
Thinking
That's
it's a little darker.
That's fair, but Lutenaria is waning right now. It's not waxing.
Yes, but when we first started, she was waning, or she was waxing.
Yeah, it was. That's true. But he wasn't quite at that attuned with his abilities yet.
Not enough
So,
to hear or see them.
yeah, little play back and forth. Maybe, who knows? We'll see. We'll find out as time goes on. Obviously.
Oh, we'll find out. Yeah, plenty of time.
Thinking someone sold someone out.
So you guys get up the next morning. Everything's perfectly fine. You guys have a quick breakfast. There's some leftover vegetables that Carol brought in, and you guys are off again for another day of travel. The next day passes uneventfully as well. You guys come to a stop about a good 20 miles away. You manage to get a good distance ahead from where you were. You can see behind you to the east, the Stormshire forest starting to grow smaller. The view of the mountains is starting to shrink as well as you guys make your way further west. And the weather starts getting warmer as well. On the second day of travel, this is April 1st, you guys are roughly a bit southwest of Garland, the capital of Garland. And you pass like a handful of people on the road again. Nothing too big. Usually like single travelers, or you'll see some people transporting like a wagon of hay or straw to another farm that's in the distance. And as you travel throughout this day, you'll see small little like hamlets, like tiny like 2 or 3 building communities off in a distance, like, maybe towards the capital city a bit, that are having, you can see people like little dots on the horizon kind of tending the farmland that's out there to help feed Garland and the surrounding, towns and cities. You do, however, encounter this wagon that's having trouble. It's coming from the south, it's from the northeast, so it's heading south, and it kind of is coming across your lane and gets kind of stuck in a rut. And you'll see on the front of the wagon itself is not covered like yours. It's actually just a back wagon with a couple of like small like rods sticking out of it, and it looks like somebody's run cloth around the inside to extend the bed a bit higher. And you can see it's being pulled by 2 black horses, and the person manning it is a dwarf. Dark hair, long, like illustrious beard that's just kind of glistening in the sunlight, and he's yelling at 2 humans, rather tan skin, looks like they're from the area, from the travelers you've been seeing going back and forth, but they're wearing like, studded leather armor, they've got swords on their sides, and they're in the back of the wagon trying to push it to kind of get it out of the rut that it's stuck in. It's a bit of mud that's kind of holding them up right now. You can see that the
Which
dwarf's
clan?
like, he is a mountain dwarf. Clan-wise, you're not really seeing too much now. But he's like, come on, hurry up, push harder, we got to get out. Look, there's another wagon that's going to hit us. Can you please push? I thought you humans were supposed to be stronger and better at this. And you'll hear, like, even at his distance, just the muttering, like, of these 2 humans back and forth. And as you guys start approaching, Liam starts slowing the wagon down. And he's like, hey, everyone, you can give me a bare second to kind of help these folks out?
Sure.
All right. Dade, Voss,
should I-
hop off and give them a push.
Did I stay in the wagon just in case?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
You probably
I'll
should.
hop off.
All right. You guys hop off and start heading towards that wagon, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
As you are heading up, you'll see the 2 humans are in the back, they're kind of giving the wagon a rock and a push each time they try to pull forward the horses. And as they look over, both humans look at you. It's a male and a female. They've got to be related. They're the same dark hair, the same like jawline, and the same nose. They look very, very similar. But they're a little bit older than you guys. I'd say probably, maybe mid-20s. Dade's a bit younger side. I think Voss is like, what, 19?
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
So
I'm
yeah, they're a little-
17, so.
A little older than you guys. And as you're coming up, the dwarf on the back, on the front of the wagon, like, hey, you guys give us a hand?
Sure. I'll make my way around back and I'll join in the rocking.
I always take 4 humans over 2. And you'll hear them kind of like snap the reins of the horses as you guys go back to push. With your combined efforts, you manage to get it out. You guys rock it out. And in the back of the wagon, you can see they've got like 3 sides of beef in the back, like full on, like half a freaking cow 3 times over, laid in the back. They've got some pelts back here, a bunch of different hides. There's a type of hide you've never seen before, which is really white, like almost like a wolf skin, but it's way too big to be a normal wolf. Like it's massive. It's like 3 times the size of a regular wolf. You see a bunch of looks like beaver pelts and some bear pelts, perhaps. Looks like they're just moving stuff back and forth. You know, they're probably a trade caravan of some sort. You see the dwarf kind of pulls the horses to a heel. He takes a breath, kind of wipes his forehead. He's like, "Oh, that was a lot of work, lads. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Can I offer you a drink?
Anytime.
Maybe
I'll
something
just
for the
kinda look
road."
over at Voss. Sure.
Yeah, we'll take a drink.
Rick Dunn, get him some of the my stock. Get him a drink. It's fine.
Real quick,
Okay.
I'll start kind of scooching some of the excess rocks and whatever else over, and I'll pat it down so we don't get stuck and nobody else gets stuck, at least for a while.
Okay. As you're doing that, the male moves some of the skins out of the way, and you'll see this like moderate size barrel of wine. And along the side, it's got writing in one of the Elvish tongues. What Elvish do you speak, if any?
I speak Kalanesti.
It's related. Not quite the same. The script's a bit different. From what you can gather, though, with the similarities, it's Sylvanesti wine. Now, this is rare.
Supposed to be
Sylvanesti
good
is
shit.
currently run by the Minotaurs. So there is no more Sylvanesti wine being made in Sylvanesti. It's all Minotaur territory now. They took it over, kicked all the elves out, so there are no Vinlands to make Sylvanesti wine anymore. So as he uncovers the cast, he gets a wineskin from the side, kind of like opens it up and kind of pops it to make sure there's nothing in there. It's empty. He goes and fills it up for you. The guy hands it over. He's like, "Hey, thanks for the hand. Really appreciate it."
Hey, we appreciate the wine.
No problem. Yes. Looks like good stuff. I will hold up the wineskin to the dwarf and I will thank him in Dwarvish.
He looks a little shocked. You learned, so really quick out of game, Voss learned like Dwarvish from Sanction, right?
Yeah.
Like when he was there. So that's like the Thorbarden dialect you're speaking. So whenever you speak that, if he's paused, he's like, "You speak the tongue of my..." Hold on. And then he hops off the wagon and he walks over and he switches to the same dialect you're speaking. It's like, "Where did you learn how to speak the tongue of my people?"
Picked it up back where I'm from in Sanction.
Yeah, I've been to Sanction. He actually refers to Common. Why don't you all sit with me and have lunch? Is that okay with your compatriots? And he'll point back towards the wagon with a hand.
It should be fine. I'll just kind of wave them over. Hey, lunch.
Like we're due for a rest anyways.
Liam's like, "What the fuck you doing? We're on the road. What is this?"
We're gonna have lunch.
We're gonna have lunch.
What do you... fine. And he'll pull the wagon off to the side so that other carts or horses can get through on the road that you guys are on. He looks back into the back of the wagon, kind of pushes some of the cloth aside and looks at Nizdrith. "Lass, no offense. Maybe you'll
She
like
just holds
us."
up her spell book.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you. And he'll hop down and start walking you guys' direction where you're over with the dwarf. Everybody else heading over?
Yes. Sprechen the Dwarvish.
Right? As you all walk over, the dwarf kind of like pats his chest with both hands and kind of does his wide stance as he spreads his arms out towards you all. "My name is Walson and I will welcome you to anything I have that you can feast upon in my wagon, except for my expensive wares, which will command a rather competitive price. Please, have some drink and have some food on me. You've helped me, saved me a lot of time and my trouble. These two aren't worth their weight in shit, but your young strength and vigor has persevered." And you'll see the 2 guards be like, "What the fuck?" And the girl speaks like, "Listen, sir, we're your guards, not your servants. Big difference. You pay us to stab shit, not to push wagons out of shit." And the dwarf just kind of chuckles like, "Yes, I know. I'm giving you a hard time, but please, wine for everybody, and let's get the good meat this time." You'll see the guy, the human, her brother, just kind of shrug, go, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And he goes start digging back, and her sister's like, what are you doing?" He's like, we're gonna eat some of this too, so let's not even fuck around about that. Like, if he's saying we're all having lunch, we're all having lunch. She's like, okay. So as the 2 humans are getting stuff ready for lunch, Walson kind of pulls off to the side. He grabs like a log that's on the side of the road and pulls up like a seat. Please introduce yourselves. I'm very happy to see people coming from my neck of the woods and who speak my dialect, which is a welcome, greeting to these old ears.
Well, I'm Dade Coltar. I am also from Sanction, as well as my friend Voss.
And I'll ask you in Dwarvish, do you speak Dwarvish?
I'll reply in Kalanesti. I do not.
You whistling some birds over? What's going on?
Something like that. No, I do not speak that language.
I'm kidding. I know the Elvish tongues. I can read Sylvanesti anyways, so I get it. I understand. At this point in time, the male guard will start handing out cups of this red wine. And it smells really fragrant. It's just a very sweet and very fruity smell. Once you guys all have your glasses, Walson's like, so why is a honorable gnome with this cadre of humans?
Adventure! I'm also trying to test my experiments. Perhaps you've heard of me. Jorg Sprave, the gnome with the golden gun.
He kind of, I think I've heard of you. You've traveled over towards my homeland, actually. Haven't you?
Yes, and then I'll actually reply in Dwarvish, saying something along the lines of, yes, I had many great adventures there.
Oh, it's beautiful to hear so many that speak this tongue. It makes me very happy. However, to not be rude to everybody else, I will speak common. It's no offense. I greatly appreciate you two speaking this. But no, adventure you'll find. There's a lot of adventure backed by Thorbarden as well. It's a problem. Big problem.
What's going on back by Thorbarden?
Thorbarden's got its issues out west. There's got the death of the green dragon that's still rocking that area. But my home, Thoradin, we have an ogre issue, to be honest.
Oh, speaking of issues, especially because it looks like you're traveling back the way we came from.
No, if we're going south.
Oh, all right. As long as you're not going through like towards First Wall, there's an entire army over there of like militant dragon lovers for a red dragon. And we actually saw the red dragon, which was frightening.
I'm not surprised.
But there's a cult. Yeah, they're gathering for something. We don't know what.
Well, I know that all the ogres of Blood have started pushing over Thoradin, and that's a problem. They've taken all the land from us. That's why I'm still out, by the way. I've been out for 2 summers, and looks like it's going to be another one, a third. They've cut off most of the overland entrances into Thoradin, so we've had to get creative. I've made it an all right time. Merchants
You seem
here
to
and
have
there.
managed to stay pretty well stocked.
Yeah, I go primarily between Starmont and Fearfold. Fearfold is just south. It's over the river down there. And I just kind of do some trade back and forth, get some rare skins, things like that. It's been fun. I've been saving up to try to hire some people to get me back into my clan's home. I don't know.
Well, hopefully you have more luck this summer, or potentially next. Maybe at some point others will help and maybe get that army run out.
I'm hoping to stock up on a bit more Sylvanesti wine, to be completely honest, because it's amazing. I love it. I've developed a taste for it, being above ground.
Not only amazing, but it's not made anymore, as far as I'm aware.
No, it's not. But I will tell you
So
this.
I would definitely keep it covered just in case bandits and all. That's
Normally, I don't
business.
drink this elven milk, but this wine is very good. Very good. There's actually an encampment. If you're going continually west, you said, yes?
For now, yes.
If you keep heading west, I'd say probably 4 days or so from here, there's a elven refugee camp. And that's where I got this from. I traded them some skins, and they gave me a cask of wine, this entire barrel, actually. So I'm hoping to get some money and head back and grab some more and see what they have left.
Not a bad idea. You'd probably sell it for a pretty penny, too.
See,
Quite a bit of steel for that cask.
I'm hoping if I market it right when I get back home, that I can be selling the last Sylvanesti wine ever produced. And that's going to go for a really good amount. Really good.
That's retirement right there.
It is. It 100% is. And taking care of the family, too. They'll definitely
Absolutely.
help.
Good idea. I hope it works out for you that way for sure.
So do I. But I will tell you this. I never thought once in my 230 years I would be expecting to make my fortune off of elvish milk water. Just wouldn't think it.
That's fair.
Walson will turn to Jorg and starts speaking in Dwarvish with the Thoradin accent. So I hear you're working with the Slamniks for a small period of time. Arms, armor, that type of thing. Is that true?
Yes, we had some business in that area.
That works. If you're interested in kicking that back up again at some point, look me up once we open up our overland trade again. Because I think we could, after all this time, use some new ideas coming back in, you know? We're stagnant, cut off the world for so long, we start to forget how to embrace innovation. And
We're all about innovation here.
I can tell. You'll see the raven kind of fly over and rest by Jorg. And Wilson's going to point at him and be like, what is that?
Ah, it's my latest invention. Let me show you its features. So you see, if you command it to go off and return with information, it can. It has its own animating force.
He looks over at like the Salamnik. Well, he's not in his armor. He looks over at Liam, then looks over at the white robe mage with you, and looks back at the creature. Is that magic, or did you build it? Because it looks like you built it.
I built it.
Very
It's
impressive.
engineering.
Can you make more?
It requires some pulling from forces that I can only keep one sustained at a given time.
I see. It's a resources thing.
Yes.
I understand that. But
Excellent.
please, everybody enjoy your drink, and we're going to be cooking some of the beef here shortly. So you guys just eat, relax, and have a pretty good lunch. Unless there's anything specific you guys want to end up talking with them about, they pretty much start packing up after lunch, like a good hour-long break or so, maybe an hour and a half, and they start to prepare their wagon to keep on going. Liam is a bit chomping at the bit. You can see he's like, all right, yay, we're doing pleasantries with the fucking dwarf. He doesn't say anything, actually, the entire time, unless he's directly asked questions, which occasionally, the dwarf does. Wilson's like, so where are you from? He's like, oh, I'm from the west, Salamnia, etc. And he just gives him this bullshit story. And you can tell that he's not interested in the conversation at all. He just wants to be done with it so he can get going and back on the road again.
As they start
enough.
packing the stuff up, I'm gonna, when the dwarf is doing something kind of away from other people, I'll approach him
Okay.
and I'll ask him. I will speak Dwarvish. I'll ask him, Master Dwarf, how much for a water skin of that? Would you call it elven milk?
Yes. It's Sylvanesti red wine, but that's what I call it, yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Your friends saved me several hours of my journey. I'm sure I've been stuck here with incompetent guards, so I will give you one for free.
I greatly appreciate it.
Just remember,
Yeah.
you run across any, tell the elves to sell to me. It'll help my
Absolutely.
business. And he'll actually walk on their back. You'll see him kind of like hop up on like a little hanging portion, like a rung underneath the back of the wagon. He'll step up on that, grab the side, and he'll grab a wineskin, double check to make sure
I'll hand him my own.
Oh, he'll take yours and he'll just hit the barrel and start pouring it full for you. Once it's full, he just kind of makes sure it's secure, gets the top nice and secure for you, hands it over. He's like, there you go. Enjoy.
Thank you. I definitely will.
Of course. And he'll hop down into the ground. He'll motion to the two guards that are with him, like, all right, hop on the back, you fools. Time to go again. And he'll climb his way up to the front of the wagon. You'll hear the reins snap as he gives a yah to the horses, and he gives you all a wave as he kind of starts heading back south.
We'll give him a wave
And wish him well.
Yep. And
I'm hoping
myself and Voss also have a wine skin with the elven wine too, correct?
Yeah. So he gave you guys two in total, essentially.
I'm
You guys
hoping
get
he's far enough away before he realizes my accent's not the same.
You guys will travel throughout the day into the next day. Things go again uneventful. The roads now is just tiring. You're constantly bouncing for those that ride in the wagon. It's that smell of just open dirt, and obviously you're passing like horse crap on the side of the road, and you'll see the remnants of old campsites where people have camped out on the side of the road for their night's rest and things of that nature. It's just tiring. Well, the group's making relatively good time on their way to Palanthas. They've had some interesting encounters as well. We've had Cybelle's bit of deja vu. We had Voss having a weird conversation with the ghosts of the knights and the wizard that they're transporting to Palanthas, and played dice with them. They met up with a dwarf that's been locked out of his homeland. There's a lot more ahead of them as they make their way to Palanthas, and even when they get to Palanthas, their story is far from over. So join us next episode and we'll see what happens.